This is Break Fast, a segment about how long I fasted before breaking, how much weight I've lost since my last fast, what foods I'm breaking it with, and how many calories I consumed, how long my eating window was, my weight after refeed, how I'm feeling, and what's next. Everyone, welcome to episode 22 of Break Fast. I don't know about you, but it seems like it's been a while since I've done one of these episodes. Ever since I've transitioned from 90 plus hour fasts to 65 plus hour fasts, I feel like these episodes are few and far between, but I don't know. I think it's just in my head. Anyway, today's episode is going to be pretty much the same, but there's one big point I want to get across, and we're going to get into that today. So just an FYI, today I am going to be ending my 5th consecutive 65 plus hour back-to-back fast. For people who don't know, or to give you a refresher, before doing these 65 plus hour fasts, I had completed 20 90 plus hour back-to-back fasts that lasted about 3 months, and I had lost a good amount of weight then. And then I transitioned into 65s. One of the reasons was because I was getting too hyper-focused on the scale. I was worrying too much about even trying to add muscle or anything like that. I was focusing way more on cardio because I didn't want the scale to go up. And that is one of the big reasons I switched over to 65s, and that's what I want to talk about today. So when I first started doing these 65-hour fasts, I had weighed in at 136 pounds. I didn't know how my weight was going to fluctuate as these 65-hour fasts continued. So we'll go into it on the 27th. I think I went from 136 to 136.2. And then on the 30th, I had gained some weight from there. And then on the 3rd, I think I was still up in weight. And then today, I weighed in at 136 pounds, the exact same weight that I had started at on June 24th, except the only difference is I've added an extra day of eating, and I've started to up my cardio game. You know, I bought a bike. If you haven't seen those episodes, I've started doing episodes called fasted workouts, where I show, people how I work out when I'm in a fasted state. So please feel free to check that out if you'd like. But I've also been trying to incorporate body weight exercises, trying to add muscle. I think I'm going to buy a kettlebell and some resistance bands to, try to increase that muscle production, but we'll save that for the episodes of fasted workouts. So seeing the weight today at 136, even though I have been trying to move away from that scale and not letting it get to me, when on the previous 65 plus hour fasts, during those weigh-ins, when that weight would go up, there's that little panic button or panic alarm that starts to go off in my head that says, this is not how it's supposed to be. Maybe you should check what you're eating and this and that. And then the rational side of me said, Jerome, you have been consistent with everything you've been doing for almost 10 months now. Just keep doing what you're doing, believe in the process. And, that kind of puts me back on an even keel, but at the same time, it's still hard to not have those thoughts get in my head about seeing the number go up on the scale. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I want to talk about that obsession on the scale and me trying to move away from it, because that has been the hardest thing about transitioning from 90-hour fasts to 65-hour fasts, is worrying about the weight going up or the scale not going down at all. But I'm also trying to remind myself that I am right now, the shape I'm in, losing 85 pounds. I should be happy where I'm at. And I am. I'm very happy where I'm at. But I still want to try to improve my physique. I still want to lose whatever excess body fat is on me, and I want to gain muscle. And, one of the things that I have talked about in the past is gaining muscle will add more weight to the scale. I mean, muscle if I remember correctly, weighs more than fat. I actually had a good conversation with a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. We used to live in the same apartment in Chicago, and we went to the same school, and we had caught up yesterday, and he had seen me, and he was like, "Man, you look great." And it was, it was really nice, but we had started talking about like losing weight and like, the number on the scale and how that number is such a misery. I mean, I'll be honest, it's a misery to see that, because that should not be the indicator of how we feel externally, how we feel about ourselves. That number on the scale will fluctuate back and forth. And that's also very apparent. And I'll show the list of numbers here on the day after my refeeds. Usually on the day after I refeed, I'll gain anywhere between 4 to 6 pounds, sometimes 7 pounds from what I weighed the day before. And it just goes to show how that number is such an arbitrary, like, don't believe that number because it can fluctuate at any given time. I mean, I could sit here, I could drink, like a liter of water, and I know that scale is gonna like bump up. Should that affect me? Should that ruin my day? No, it shouldn't. And that is something I have been trying to teach myself every day. And I know typically I show everybody like what I eat, and I'll do that, but it's nothing has really changed. I haven't even really changed my diet. The one thing I was trying to do was change the way I ate from transitioning from these 90s to 65s. But I told myself, you know what? Mentally right now, it is hard to do that because I feel like I'm depriving myself and I just don't want to like go over the edge and overeat. So I've been eating to satiety. Meaning I eat until I feel full, and that's been working for me. So, I'm not going to go through all the numbers here, but I ate basically the same things: salad, Brussels sprouts, Taco Bell, Wingstop. I think I had lemon bars, and I even had pie. And anyway, chips and guac as well. Anyway, all those numbers added somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 calories. And I also refed again, and it was about the same amount, and the weight has stayed about the same. I believe 65 hours with the way I eat currently, between 6,000 and 7,000 calories is my maintenance number. Can that number change? Sure. If I eat differently, I'm sure that's going to change. If my activity level is different as well, that's also going to change. So I have to keep those things in mind. But I think at the end of the day, that number on the scale is not the most important thing. The one thing that my friend and I, and by the way, if Tom is watching, because Tom was like, "What's your channel?" And so I had given it to him. Tom, if you're watching this, what's going on? The one thing we had talked about is non-scale victories, right? So instead of worrying about the scale, the one thing I had recommended in my past videos is finding some clothes that fit tighter or don't fit you as well anymore, and keep those in the front of your closet and try those on like every week and see if that has progressed. Because who cares about the number on the scale? It should matter more about if these clothes can fit you that you haven't been able to fit in before. But my buddy had even said you can even go a step further, and if you don't have clothes that if you don't have like smaller clothes that don't fit or whatever, like, why not just go and buy a pair for the future? Buy a smaller pair of pants, right? Imagine if you're wearing a 36 and then, you go and buy a pair of 34 pants that don't fit. And buy that and have that as a non-scale victory. And you keep that, in the front of your closet or in your dresser drawer or whatever. And you try that on every week or every 2 weeks. And then when that fits, like, that is a better indicator than what the scale says. And that's something that I am trying to teach myself, and that's something I'm trying to teach all of you as well. Now, there are other non-scale victories. I think what I'm trying to do is, I guess, just teach that the number on the scale doesn't mean everything. That number on the scale does not, I guess, define who you are, define your worth, define how you should feel for the day. And that is the point that I really wanted to drive home. So I know this episode of Breakfast isn't the typical episode that you normally see, but this was the big driving thing that has been in my head for a while now since I've started 65s. And I just wanted to share that. I know, this episode didn't run as it normally does, but as I continue doing these 65-hour fasts, because I think I have said this in a previous episode, I'm going to try to do 65-hour fasts for this entire month. I'm going to try to incorporate a higher level of cardio, and I'm also going to try to incorporate strength training and trying to gain muscle and trying to work on my physique. And these are things that I don't, I don't have to do. I feel like I'm at a very healthy weight at this point. But it's something like a personal goal for me, is to try to just keep improving my health, again, my physique, and doing it in a natural way where I'm not taking a ton of supplements or anything like that. You guys have seen my previous videos on how that's worked. I just take my electrolytes and I take a multivitamin, and that's about it. Otherwise, that's really it. I know this might be a shorter episode, and I apologize for that, but I hope that what I have been trying to get across came across properly. With that being said, I do appreciate, for anybody, if you have questions or concerns, or if you have any thoughts or feedback, please leave them down below in the comments. I love reading everybody's input, and I try to get back to everybody that I can as soon as I can. Life has been very busy lately, and it's been hard to keep up, but I try. So for everybody that's leaving comments and sharing, really, I appreciate that. On top of that, if anybody needs any kind of help with it, please feel free to subscribe. Consider subscribing. I try to encourage people to do that, to be accountable and have an accountability partner, even if it's just digital or virtual. Let me know how you're doing. Keep me posted. That's something I try to tell everybody, is let me know your progress, because I think keeping that accountability is really important. And then finally, for people who might be interested in supporting, because people do ask occasionally, I do have a Patreon. So if you want to support in that way, I understand times are tough. And that's something that I've been trying to, let people know. I understand times are tough. So, please don't feel obligated, but I do have a Patreon if you do want to support. There is a certain tier that gives people access to my private Discord, and we talk about fasting and what's going on, and it's more of a daily update kind of thing. So feel free to check that out as well. You could go to patreon.com/finally fasting. Other than that, that is it for today. I know it's not, again, a typical episode of Breakfast, but hopefully it was still entertaining somewhat. With that being said, how many times have I said the same things over and over? I'm the worst at closing these out. That's it, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.